this will be another rambling video. Kind of wanted to give my thoughts on the story of Monster Hunter Wilds. I know it's really a mixed bag when it comes to general perception of the game. So let me adjust my settings. Sorry, that was an L on my part. But yeah, there's generally mixed reception when it comes to the story of Wilds. My take on it, I'm not particularly fond of it. I mean, what I think Monster Hunter Wilds does well is logistics. Like when it comes to the type of missions you're doing, why the monsters are becoming more difficult, how they justify the ones you face, why they're tempered, why they're tempered, the frenzy monsters, they're calling them plips that kind of like tell you the strength of a monster. I think all of that is well and good, but I do think that the story itself leaves a lot to be desired. So like I myself, when I was playing Monster Hunter Wilds, I was disappointed in the story. I think that like it's really lacking in uh, characterization. Like Nata is really the only one that shows character development, but it's really not in the way you'd like. Um, I think there was only like one moment in the game where they gave Alma some actual depth that I could appreciate. And I mean, like, your hunter is really just there. Like there's dialogue options, but there's not dialogue options at the same time. So I was, you know, and honestly, I was expecting a lot because, for those that play Monster Hunter Stories 2 specifically, like Monster Hunter Stories 2, like legitimately had a good story going for it. Such a good story, in fact, that I was positive there would be like wyvern riders or something to that effect in Wilds. Because it was finally touching on the crossover between hunters, wyvern riders, their general lifestyles, why they do what they do, blah blah blah. And in Monster Hunter Wilds, I mean, like, yeah, lore wise, I mean, it's pretty deep lore wise, but it's also kind of like it feels like we kind of went from like fantasy to like straight up sci-fi. And I don't know how I feel about sci-fi in Monster Hunter. And I mean, I say that, but like in World, we did have a monster that literally looked like an alien. But I think that was also why the story was kind of a turn off for me. I don't like Wyveria. I hate the concept of wyvern milk. Um, the the boss you face at the end of high rank, I think as a monster, I guess it's cool in theory, but honestly, if you were going to go this route, I would rather it have been a machine, or at least something akin to Autoka, where it like creates a mech to fight with, or whatever the case. Because like at least that would touch like the my inner child at heart. Another reason why I didn't necessarily care for the story was I found the justification for things happening kind of weak. Like, even when we first got to this area, the idea that it was uninhabited, and then we get here and there's like three major civilizations. Three. I mean, it'd be one thing if it was just like the the Wyvern Milk people. I'm forgetting Nata's clan's name. Yeah, it'd be one thing if it was like just them. They're hiding underground. Obviously, they'd be hard to find. But the Kunafa people, if I'm remembering correctly, Suja. It's like, come on now. So I found the justifications weak. There's characters in here that are from previous Monster Hunters. You wouldn't know that unless you played the previous Monster Hunters. I don't think they should be in here as nuggets per se. I think they should be like further developed. I think I already said that. Well, like the hunter to have more essence to them. But I guess that was asking a lot. What else? Oh yeah, when you're progressing through the story, taking you from map to map, and then bringing you back to certain maps. I feel like a lot of these maps had the kind of depth to them where you could have stayed in that particular map for an entire chapter and then moved on to the next one. I hear a lot of people say, that because of the sacreds, a lot of people don't even bother memorizing the maps. But I feel like that's also because we don't spend a lot of time in them as we're progressing. If you spent an entire chapter in the Scarlet Forest, I feel like you would know the layout of the Scarlet Forest better. But going back to story beats. Oh yeah. I guess I would call it, I don't even know what phrase I want to use. I guess the sense of what is at stake, how big is this threat? Because like obviously in Monster Hunter, power scaling wise, as hunters we do be taking on things that are like stupidly powerful. Like it's actually ridiculous what they can do. I do feel like Monster Hunter has notoriously been bad at portraying that versus what's said about them. I feel like the first time we legitimately saw a monster that kind of matched its lore was Fatalis at the end of Iceborne. Like, for what we knew about Fatalis and what it was doing in Iceborne, I was like, yeah, this checks out. I'm not mad at this. But when it comes to pretty much any other monster, the lore behind them will be crazy, and then what they do in actual combat, it's really whatever. I felt that way about Zoshia. The, granted, we haven't gotten the high rank version of it yet, but for this to be the for this to be the monster that can take on black dragons. Black dragons. Portrayal wise, like as it's portrayed in the game.
What a breathtaking view!
And like I know I say it Fatalis was the only one that got like accurate portrayal for the type of lore match to it, but when it comes to like portraying monsters and how dangerous they are, they did Behemoth justice. If you had treated Zoshia like Behemoth, the Final Fantasy monster crossover,
Potential target has appeared. Check your map
hey,
when you're ready.
that would have been amazing. But again, like I said, we haven't gotten the high rank version. We'll see how it goes. Something's coming here. I'm trying to mess with our get out of here. it's just in this area. But yeah, so like the story really was whatever to me. Um, Frankly, I don't think it was even better than the world story, if I'm being honest. I was really hoping for at least a Monster Hunter Stories level of narrative, but I would went crazy for something akin to like I'm just trying to think of a good RPG example because that seems to be the route they're trying to take with Monster Hunter, really bring it into role-playing game spaces. But I feel like if you want to do that, um, you would need something at least on the level of like the first Dragon's Dogma. I'm not even gonna say Dragon's Dogma 2 because I do think that the first one's better, a lot better. But yeah, you really need something to the level of that because because the overarching narrative can be whatever. Like I said, Monster Hunter Wilds actually hits the logistic points very well, but you need to make it so that we care about the characters. And like when I'm in these villages or cities, I feel like they should be more immersive. Like, just random example. Like, I mean, there were side missions you get from select members of each of the four major areas, 4 or 5 major areas. And, it's like any other quest. Any other quest, so you don't really have any reason to speak to anybody else, go to any other spot within that village.
This must be how the wind feels.
It's just typical RPG things you can expect. I said how I didn't particularly care about the characters. Gemma was the only one that really grew on me as the story went along. Alma actually did get kind of annoying after a while because I get that she's an anthropologist and she's very by the book when it comes to interacting with these foreign civilizations. But it did get annoying after a while, which is why I was so surprised when we got to the Woodwoods and they were like messing with her stuff and she like finally showed that non-human resources personality. And I enjoyed that. And we only got it once. It never popped up again. So I was kind of disappointed in that. Nata, I'm with everyone else. He is very annoying, but I think the reason he's so annoying isn't necessarily just because of his mannerisms. I mean, he is a child. He is a child. I think the reason he was so annoying, at least to me, was that, like, there was never really any pushback against his behavior or the things he said. Right? Everybody wanted to be so understanding of him.
What you think we'll find?
And that's just not realistic. Him coming to terms with Arkveld and all that stuff is cool, but like there were so many points in the story where I wish I could have given him the reality of the situation. And like I said, your hunter, there's no depth to them. There's dialogue options, but there's not dialogue options at the same time. A lot of games do that. It was kind of expecting too much, but it would have been nice to kind of really establish a personality for your hunter and what kind of impact they would have on this world, since they're, for
On my
all
way there.
intents and purposes, it's you know, like, I mean, I get obviously Monster Hunter, there's the guild, it's multiplayer, but like from a story standpoint, you are the balance. You know, you're Godzilla, you're the apex.
A potential target is
You
appearing.
are the
Check your
apex
map when you're
monster.
ready.
And it would just be cool to see them kind of go more into that. Yeah, like I said, this is kind of just a ramble video. I can't think of anything else I would want to say on the story.
I'll ride with you.
Thanks for anybody that took the time to listen. Peace.